This is every single death in solo leveling. We kick things off on Guju Island, where we see 5 hunters being attacked straight away, 4 of which instantly pass away, and 1 is saved by Guju, who 200 pumps one of the ants. Before he could be sneak attacked by another group of ants, one of the other hunters electrocutes all 7 of them. After this, we see the electricity guy and Baek Yunho fighting and defeating another 8 ants. This big ass white ant then pulls up, but is still no match for them, and right after this, another 7 of those appear, all of which are killed off screen. We then cut over to Choi Jong-in and some of the other hunters who are facing off against a small army of ants. Of course, they're no match whatsoever for Jong-in, as he's one of the strongest hunters, and at least 14 red ants are instantly incinerated by him. However, the white ants manage to survive this initial blast. Although we don't see them get defeated on screen, all 7 of them are killed off screen. 3 years after this, we meet Jinwoo for the first time, and let's just say we get thrown straight into the action. Him and his group enter a dungeon where we see this dead goblin who was seemingly killed by Jinwoo. He then gets attacked by another but is saved by one of his group members. As Jinwoo is being healed, the group manages to defeat another 7 magic beasts, and they then move on to the next part of the dungeon. Only thing is, it was not what they expected. Turns out they accidentally entered a double dungeon, meaning that they were in a very strong dungeon and they were completely essentially. Upon entering, the door slams shut behind them, trapping them inside. This guy clearly wasn't very happy about this and decides to try and open the door. Unfortunately for him, he's then decapitated by one of the statues. But the death doesn't just stop there. This guy gets lasered, this guy and this girl get crushed, and these 2 guys get chopped in half. Jinwoo then manages to figure out what they need to do to survive, and the door opens, allowing everyone else except Jinwoo to escape. He stays behind and, long story short, survives and gains his powers. The next few episodes is just about Jinwoo getting to grips with said powers, where we see him completing his daily quests and training. During this though, we do see a flashback where we see another 5 goblins being defeated. After this, he makes his way over to Hapjeong Station, where he then enters his first solo dungeon. Thankfully, this time his training had paid off. He manages to defeat the first wave of 3 goblins quite easily, but he's then attacked by a much stronger enemy, a steel-fanged lichen. This gave him a lot more trouble, however, eventually, thanks to both his training and plot armor, he manages to defeat it. Another 2 pull up and Jinwoo makes quick work of the first one. The second one runs away and returns shortly after with 25 more. However, after all Jinwoo's leveling up, they stood absolutely no chance. He then heads down into the dungeon's boss room, defeating 5 more magic beasts on his way. Upon arriving, he is instantly smashed into a wall by the blue venom-fanged Kasaka. The fight is very close, however, in classic main character fashion, Jinwoo manages to defeat it. While this was happening, a dungeon break had happened back on the surface, and the hunters seemed to be struggling to defeat the monsters. Luckily, Jinwoo arrived just at the right time, throwing his weapon and killing it with ease. After this, Jinwoo continues to train, searching for more dungeon raids he can take part in. He eventually finds one and teams up with Hwang Dong-suk and the rest of his party. They all enter and soon after get attacked by a whole bunch of these ant-like monsters, all of which are defeated, adding another 40 to the kill count. They proceed through the dungeon, killing another 9 enemies on their way. Eventually they arrive, but it turns out Dong-suk and his team had ulterior motives, leaving Jinwoo and Jinho alone with the boss. What they failed to account for though was Jinwoo's sheer aura, as he easily defeats the boss. Dong-suk comes back surprised that they managed to survive and challenges them to a fight to the death. Although he couldn't have made a bigger mistake, as Jinwoo just absolutely shits on all of them, decapitating this guy, stabbing and poisoning these 2 guys, slicing this guy's arms off, stabbing this guy, and finally decapitating Dong-suk. However, before all this happens, we see a brief flashback showing Cha Ha-in killing this big goblin guy. We then see Jinwoo doing more training, and then we cut to him entering an S-rank dungeon where he encounters Hell's gatekeeper Cerberus. This fight would be the closest we've seen so far, with Jinwoo barely escaping death, but thanks to his inventory of healing potions, he manages to take it down. After this, we jump over to yet another dungeon raid. This time Jinwoo is with his old party from the double dungeon, as well as Kang Tae-shik and 3 prisoners. Right off the bat, we see the prisoners kill 4 goblins, Song Chi-yul burning 2, and Jinwoo killing another 8. They then split up into 3 groups. We see these 3 goblins being killed by the first group, and then another by the prisoners and Kang. Similarly to Dong-suk, turns out Kang also wasn't who he said he was. He was actually a psychopath, and he kills all 3 of the prisoners as well as 2 of the other members. He then tries to sneak attack Jinwoo, which, as we all know, is a very rookie mistake, resulting in his inevitable death. With the hopes of further leveling up, Jinwoo teams up with Jinho and they take on a whole bunch of other dungeons. Across all of these dungeons, we see 8 goblins, this big ass serpent, these 6 bugs, and these 4 beasts all meet their ends. Things calm down in the next episode and we only see a short flashback featuring Choi Jong-in and some other hunter who is killed. A notification appears on Jinwoo's system, asking if he wants to take on the job change quest. Naturally, he accepts and enters the toughest dungeon he had ever faced. Upon entering, he manages to make quick work of the initial wave of 11 enemies. He then heals back up and enters the main room, where he stumbles across Igris. Now, I'll save you watching the entire thing, but just know it was absolutely crazy, with Jinwoo emerging as the winner. Surprise, surprise. However, the dungeon didn't just end there. Multiple portals appear and hundreds of enemies begin to pour out of them, and spoiler alert, this is definitely the part where I start to regret making this video. Jinwoo begins to fight off a bunch of them with his fists. Not sure why he didn't just equip a weapon, but hey, maybe he was out of weapons or something, I don't know. Before he could completely tire out, he is saved by the failure to complete the daily quest Punishment, where he then heals up and defeats at least 15 giant centipedes on screen. After this, he gets teleported back to the dungeon, instantly taking down 6 more knights and a mage. He continues to go on an absolute rampage, killing another 15 enemies on screen, as well as all of these guys off screen. The surviving mages all come together, summoning this giant knight. Unfortunately for them, it was still no match for an enraged Jinwoo. He defeats all 3 of them as well as the knight, meaning our kill count at the end of Season 1 is 301, and trust me, it gets way higher, so get ready. Season 2 begins inside a Red Gate dungeon, where Jinwoo's group are instantly sneak attacked by a group of ice elves. They then split up into 2 groups, and of course, anyone who wasn't with Jinwoo was completely cooked, but we'll get to that later. Before that, they managed to defeat 3 of these polar bear magic beasts. We then jump over to Jinwoo's group, where we see him also kill another 7 polar bears. They set up camp and he heads out to further explore the area, where he bumps into a whole bunch of the polar bears, all of which get smoked. The boss bear pulls up, but is still no match for Igris. The episode then closes out with a scene where we see 4 out of 5 members of the other group being taken out by the ice elves. After this, the ice elves run up on Jinwoo, and honestly, do I even need to tell you the outcome of the fight at this point? Obviously, he wins again, defeating Baruka, his horse, and 25 other elves. During this, he also kills the last A-rank hunter from the other group, extracting his shadow to help him fight. We then see Jinho and Jinwoo doing even more dungeon raids, killing 19 magic beasts on screen. After this, it cuts to this, we'll say, mysterious hunter killing 5 other hunters. In search of everything needed for the elixir of life, Jinwoo begins to grind. He enters yet another dungeon where he beats a bunch of monsters off screen. He runs through another group where we see 6 monsters getting flung out the way. He then kills another 2 beasts on screen, and then it cuts to a system notification telling us that Jinwoo killed another 10,000 magic beasts in that grinding session alone. Pretty damn crazy. After that, we see him take on Big Chungus and his army, which he once again defeats with no difficulty. He then ends his grinding session with another 9 kills. Things start to slow down again, with Jinwoo going to get his new rank. After this, he heads over to work undercover as a Mano Crystal miner. While he's outside waiting for the hunters to defeat the dungeon, we see Choi Jong-in incinerate 3 enemies. With the hopes of defeating the dungeon boss himself, Jinwoo heads deeper into the dungeon than he was supposed to. However, before he had the chance to take it on, Cha-Hae finds him and kicks him out. Shortly after, he gets appointed to be the tool carrier for an A-rank party. 7 demon dogs instantly attack, but get defeated. The group then get attacked by an army of orcs, and they have a lot of difficulty defeating them. Seeing this, Jinwoo steps in, still trying to stay undercover while ensuring their safety. Another group of orcs arrive and escort the hunters to the boss room, where they meet Kargalgan and the rest of his army. Luckily for those hunters, they had Jinwoo with them. They would have been absolutely cooked had that not been the case. But yeah, he takes out each and every enemy with no casualties in his team. After this, Jinwoo does some more aura farming, getting his S rank and being broadcasted all over the world on live TV. With all of his earnings, he heads over to some sort of item store where he buys better equipment. He then heads into another dungeon, his goal to defeat the Demon Monarch. We instantly see this enemy being absolutely blasted by Kargalgan's shadow. He encounters a group of demon knights, of which he defeats all of them except for one, Essel, who then leads Jinwoo to the demon castle where he gets access to the next dungeon floor. While this was happening, tragedy struck over on Guju Island, where we see another 5 civilians die from the ants. It then cuts over to the Hunters Association in a meeting discussing the situation on the island. On the screen, we get shown another 2 civilian deaths and 1 ant death. Jinwoo makes his way to the very top of the dungeon, defeating 9 more enemies on his way. The Demon Monarch swoops in and begins to attack Jinwoo, summoning what looks like thousands of magic beasts, which all get defeated by by Jinwoo's shadow army. The Demon Monarch himself gives him a bit of trouble at first, however this is Jinwoo we're talking about and he eventually defeats him and his dragon. The preparation for the Jeju Island raid begins, and fun fact, this episode, season 2 episode 9, is actually the only episode in the show so far with not even a single death in it. Right before Beru the Ant King is born, we see a pile of the ants eating one of their own. The hunters then set off for the island. Upon arrival, the ants start to swarm and fly towards them. Choi Jong-in responds by burning them all to a crisp. The second they all touch down, they are met with a whole bunch more. We see some of the Japanese hunters taking out 15 of them. The Korean hunters make their way through the inside, taking out 5 white ants before finding out where Beru hatched. It then cuts back to where the Japanese hunters are, and turns out Beru was there too, instantly beheading all 3 of those hunters. On the inside, the Korean hunters encounter another 4 white ants. One of them is killed on screen and the other 3 off screen. 2 more Japanese hunters stumble across where Beru had his way with their comrades. Unfortunately for them, bro was still there. Choi Jong-in and co arrive at where the queen ant is, and a giant army of red and white ants rush towards them. The red ones instantly get taken out by Jong-in's flames, and the other hunters quickly deal with 4 of the white ants. Long story short, the entire army gets defeated, including the queen ant herself. Back on the surface, Japan's strongest hunter, Goto Ryuji, is seen standing over the bodies of 4 ants. After briefly saying hello to the Korean hunters and eliminating their healer, Beru finds and kills Goto and the 2 other hunters he was with. We then see this shot of another 6 dead ants. The ants continue to swarm the Korean hunters, where Choi Jong-in holds off a large amount of them, despite being in critical condition. Before they could all be wiped out, Jinwoo enters the battle. Icarus takes out 9, Iron eliminates 4, and another is eaten by the bear on screen. Beru then thinks he can out-aura himself, but ultimately gets absolutely cooked. Tusk then eviscerates all of the remaining ants inside the nest. This number is impossible to calculate, so I'd estimate that it's around 500 ants. The surviving hunters then take out the remainder of the ants who are running rampant outside. Again, this is also almost impossible to count, so we'll call it around 15,000 ants because it looks like there was an absolute shit ton of them. Another mysterious hunter encounters a wave of ants above the ocean, and he destroys them all. As a final measure, a group of hunters are sent into the nest to ensure that not even one single ant is still alive. They bump into these dodgy lads and seemingly have their lives cut short. We then cut to Jinwoo, who gets caught up in another Red Gate dungeon. These 2 enemies get rocketed out of the way, this clump all get flung, and another pile meet their ends at the hands of Beru's shadow. So, our complete solo leveling kill count is 30,103. Let me know what I should do next. Please subscribe, that'd be nice. But yeah, bye-bye.